Welcome to the Prenup, the wedding-obsessed podcast designed to help you plan your dream day. I'm your host, Adriana, and each week I'm joined by the industry's top professionals, celebs, influencers, and friends who are sharing their best tips, advice, and mistakes they've made so you don't have to. The Prenup is a Love Stories TV podcast. This episode is brought to you by Honey Fund. Join more than 1 million couples on Honey Fund and start your fee-free registry at honeyfund.com today. You can typically find Tess Tregellas in a wedding dress wreaking havoc around the city or at one of her hilarious immersive comedy shows. But whether or not she's donning bridal wear, she always has us cracking up. And as you're planning your wedding, you know best that sometimes you need a little comic relief. She is a comedian, producer, director, and most importantly, amateur magician. Tess, welcome to the Prenup.
Oh my God, that was so cool. I loved that.
Did you like it?
Yeah, you wrote it?
I wrote it.
I think I'm going to use that on my website.
Obsessed. I'll send it to you.
That's perfect.
So, Tess, I originally found you on Instagram per your Brooklyn Marathon video in which you ran the marathon in a wedding dress. Did you run the whole thing in the wedding dress?
Yes. I will say it was a half marathon because some of the running community did not appreciate a full, like I said it was, anyway. I said it was a marathon, and then they were like, talking about a half marathon. I was like, okay, yes, you're right. But for the pun, I'm not good. Anyway.
Yes.
I did. I did wear it, 13.1 miles, and I'll say it was the best day of my life. It was so much fun.
And it looked like a lot of fun.
Yeah, my friend Max Davidson did it, and at each, like every 6 miles or so, maybe 3 or 4, we did little bits. So we had like, I threw the bouquet at one, and we had champagne, and we had like a priest show up, and we did our vows in a ring. It was so funny. And people, I think some people were either like, that's hilarious.
Yes.
Or they were like, oh my God, that's so cute. And it's not real.
Right.
But it was so fun to see their face light up.
Yes.
And even on the race, people were like, congrats, congrats. My cheeks were sore because I was smiling for the whole time.
You were having your bridal moment.
It was amazing.
I was going to ask you what people's reactions were like, because I would imagine that there were a lot of people who were like, oh, these people are like at their wedding.
Yeah. I think people really thought that, which we were just like, yeah, we're getting married. They're like, oh my God, today? And we're like, at the finish line. And they just were like, sure.
Okay.
So I think that people, I'm sure, have done proposals and stuff at races and whatnot.
Totally.
But to see someone in a wedding dress, this like image of beauty and cover, like sweat and like running. And we were going so slow. And my friend Max, who's the groom, is like a fast runner. And so he was just living his life. We had a boombox. Oh my God, I sound so old. A speaker, and like people were vibing, and we had disposable cameras. So we like really just had a bouquet the whole time. If you wanted to do your wedding in a race, it was around 2 hours. So like that's probably around the same amount of time, 2.5 hours. And then we had a barbecue after. All my friends came. It was so fun.
Honestly, it was funny at first, but now I'm like, this is such a good idea for a wedding.
It's a great idea especially if you're a runner.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, if you met running and it's like, that's all you want to do. Because I wouldn't want to plan a wedding.
Yeah.
Fully, like even just doing that was so much work.
Oh my God, I can only imagine.
It was so much work. And so I give so much credit to brides and wedding planners, because not only is it planning all the things, it's saying what you want and then like unapologetically getting it. And when you put that dress on, you can get that.
Oh, well.
That's what I love.
I want to talk to you about this whole concept. So there's a concept of bridal privilege, and so real, like more than any other kind, you know. If you were in a wedding dress, which often you are for your work, you know, it's for the art.
Right.
You firsthand, you could say, like, do people treat you differently in the wedding dress versus in a lay person's outfit?
Yes. And I'll say I act differently.
Do you?
Yes, because it gives me the permission to be direct and not feel like a bitch.
Yes.
Because it's like, in other people's minds, it's like, well, it's her day. And I'm like, okay, well, if I have this on, it's my day today.
Yeah.
Why do I have to only one day? And why does it have to be connected to some guy who also didn't plan any of the wedding?
For real.
So, I mean, that's my perception of what's happening.
Yes.
But yeah, I put it on, and if I'm like, this is what's gonna happen if people question it.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I'm doing all this work to do it. Just make it happen. I'll give a good example. One of my first shows I did in the wedding dress. After the show, I got the whole audience to run into the walk on the street. We had a brass band. We're all dancing down the street. And I go into a bar, didn't tell them we were coming. And I was like, hi, I just got married. Can we hang out in here? And they were like, sure. And I was like, we have a band. Can they come in? They were like, yeah. Then I was like, can we dance on the tables? They were like, okay.
Because they're not going to tell the bride no.
Exactly. And I didn't realize we passed through the security guy who's supposed to check all these IDs. And I came up, when I left to like go leave or whatever, I saw him and I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize you were here. I'm so sorry. And he goes, it's your day, sweetie. And I was like, oh my God.
It's a suit of armor.
It is.
Imagine if we all just went about our lives like it was our wedding day every day and just grabbed it by the balls. You know?
I'm trying to figure that out now as like me as Tess, because you don't want to be too like, it's my way or the highway. Like I want to be adaptable, but I also want to be able to like feel the way I do in the dress without actually being in the dress, and give myself the permission to be like, you know what, actually it is my day just because I said it is.
Totally.
And that's what I'm playing with.
I love where that whole idea is going. I was actually talking with my husband earlier about this whole concept because it goes for not only your wedding day, but your whole bridal era I just felt myself cringe saying era, but from the time you get engaged until like basically your newlywedhood, people do treat you differently. Like if I'll tell you a little story. So a few years ago, 5-6 years ago, my whole family did a tacky Disney trip, which I happen to love. We did have the t-shirts, everything. But I check into my room and the concierge is like, oh, are we celebrating anything special? And I'm like, no, but my sister and her now husband had just gotten engaged. I was like, oh, then my sister just got engaged. When I tell you every morning, gorgeous fresh fruit plate. They had, the Mickey ears the bride and groom sent to the room, like desserts every night. I'm like, what? And I was honestly jealous at the time, but I was like, no, I'm going to take this forward to my brides and I'm going to let them know. You, at every opportunity, let people know you're celebrating an engagement, a wedding, you just got married, anything.
100%. And I don't allow myself to do that. Like even my birthday, I'm like, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
But now I need to be a little more like, no, it's my birthday and I'm going to tell you what's going to happen.
Exactly.
It's my birthday. Like,
it's just got a promotion.
Go celebrate.
Hi, we're celebrating a promotion. Like, do it in every facet of your life.
Right. And I think what I was feeling and I am feeling now is like all my friends are getting married and engaged. And I was like, but I'm special. And so I was like, special. So if I just put on a dress, then I'll just have my day. Because like I have no prospect of marriage at the moment.
Yeah.
So why not? I'm at the age. I think maybe that will spark some conversation within the comments, but who knows?
No, I love where this is going. So, most of our listeners are brides. So if you're celebrating something in the wedding arena, share that. But in addition to that and outside of that, all the things like, let's get some pats on the back. Actually, I mean, it is wedding related still, but I think it would be for any kind of celebration. When my husband and I were engaged, we got a last minute reservation at this really popular restaurant in Philadelphia. It was like so hard to get into, but we go and they're like, oh, are you celebrating anything? Mind you, like wedding is basically completely planned. Like we're not celebrating an engagement anymore. We had like a 1.5 year long engagement. I'm like, oh, an engagement. They stop everything, champagne for everyone in the restaurant. I'm like, this is the way it should be. Let's celebrate all the things for everyone.
Totally.
Right?
Yes.
It's the way life has to go. So you mentioned earlier the whole production of not just your Brooklyn marathon, but all of your shows too. Like I explain this to brides in the same way. Planning a wedding is a lot like a production. You have to think about, the costume, the pageantry,
my God,
the timeline.
It's insane.
Yes. So from your perspective as a performer, producer, all of it, how do you get yourself in gear for that? How do you, not only for the planning, but I also want to know about if we can go into like the anxiety and stress
Oh my
of
God.
planning a show.
I can't even begin.
Right?
The planning, someone told me recently, I was at a party and they were planning their wedding and they had no idea that I do these like fake weddings.
Yes.
And they were like, all you have to do is like set a venue, find a date, and then like once that's locked in, you feel so much better. And I wanted to be like, trust me, I know. Once you find a date and a venue, then you just work backwards.
Yes.
The weird thing for me was the first time I did it, it was called My Big Fat Spoof Wedding.
Yes.
And I promoted it, I put it online, and like a week before I had like 8 tickets sold. And I was so anxious because it was like, okay, I'm throwing myself a fake wedding and nobody's gonna show up. Like,
yes.
It can't be that imbalanced. So
yeah.
And then I was like sold out within the week, which was insane, but that was
Amazing.
because I was so anxious. But the anxiety of like not knowing who's gonna show up if they are, you can't manage everybody in the audience. And like, I think for me, the show was to like have control, because me as the bride, I have full control,
right?
But sometimes it goes off the rails. And now I'm kind of leaning into it's gonna go off the rails, and I just have to like enjoy that. That's kind of the point of the show now.
Yeah.
So I'm leaning into that lack of control.
Really quick before, because I want to go back to this point, but before we go forward, if anyone's not familiar with your show, can you just give like a brief explanation?
Yes. So the show is called Crash My Wedding.
Yes.
And it is an immersive comedy variety experience where I am the bride and you go through like a classic picture perfect wedding.
Yes.
That truly just goes off the rails. Part of the bit is that there's a crasher. Like there's a loud aunt who's like, someone's crashing the wedding. And I, as the bride, I'm like, okay, I'll like figure it out. Like no worries. And so while I'm figuring it out, I have all of the wedding party perform. And there are all these amazing talented people in New York. I have a magician. I have comedians, improvisers. Truly, like I've had people do impressions. So we had like Kamala Harris at the last wedding.
Handson.
So it was just like true chaos. The band always is late. Like anything that you can imagine going wrong at a wedding goes wrong in a weird way.
It's a cautionary tale.
Exactly. But I think it's trying to make something so precious and perfect and then like kind of letting it go and welcoming that chaos within the show, but also like within myself as a producer has been very freeing to be like, yeah, this is what I had planned happening, but like honestly, the worse it goes, the better the show is. Which is like backwards.
Yeah. Well, that's the fun aspect too of just letting go. And I feel like it's very similar in weddings. Like the people who actually have fun at their wedding, I will say 10 times out of 10, at least something is going to go awry, not as you plan, no matter how many T's you cross, dies you ought.
Yeah.
Dies you ought. Yeah, that's right. That sounds good. But no matter how diligent you are, something's bound to go wrong. But just enjoying it and letting it like fall all over you and leaning in.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
Leaning into and it's for the purposes of my show, it's a good thing.
Yes.
But even like there were certain things I was like, oh, I really want this one moment. I wanted to recreate in Love Actually, when like the band comes from the audience, they like play All You Need Is Love. That's all I wanted. And I was like, I want this so bad. And I got all these like musicians and like tried to plant them and someone was late and then the other person didn't know. And I was just like, honestly, I tried.
Yeah.
I tried. And like people kind of knew what I was going for, but I was also like, I think the best part of a wedding is that people want to feel involved. They want to feel like a part of it. And I felt like so many shows are very like audience performer. And this was a little more like, no, it's a story and you have a part in this that you can make it better.
Yeah.
Or you can make it worse.
Uh-huh.
And like you're fully in control of that. And people want to be so precious with it. So seeing a bride be like sweaty and covered and running 13.1 miles, they're like, okay, like this is a different vibe. So
it is. It's fun and refreshing. I mean, people are always looking for a new thing at a wedding, right?
Right.
So I want to ask you about stage fright right now. So many brides that I come across are absolutely terrified to walk down the aisle, not so much because they're afraid to get married, but I always hear the same complaint of like, oh my God, everyone's going to be looking at me. I'm so scared. Everyone's going to be staring at me. And it gives them a pit. So as a performer, do you ever deal with stage fright?
I get nervous and very sweaty before every performance.
Okay. How do you deal with it?
I usually after the first minute or like even like 15 seconds, to be honest, but like it's like the first 5 minutes before a show, I get very nervous and like shaky, and I've like made my cuticles like bleed. I like bled on my wedding dress last show just because I'm nervous and like I didn't know, there's so many things happening. But I think once I saw the person who plays my groom, once I saw them, I was literally, it all went away. And they're not the love of my life in a groom setting.
Yeah.
But as a performance partner, I looked at them and it was like, we got it. And that was like, I think you can find that in friendships or, even your mom or someone like that. Someone really important who's like, hey, if you walk down the aisle, I'm right here. But if you run the other way, I'll come with you too. Like it was kind of that feeling of like, we're going to go in this together. And I think even though it wasn't a romantic relationship, I think it could be anyone's eyes. Honestly, for me, in like a stand-up setting, if I look at someone in the audience and they're looking at me like this, complete stranger, I'm like, oh, you're a human, I'm a human, and you're rooting for me. So I think like, I would say first off, I think holding the bouquet is such a life hack because like, we're like, what do we do with our hands? And now you have something to hold. So like hold a bouquet, obviously. And I think look at people. Like when you look at someone and you like see that, like, I think that is a trick. And, smiling at someone, like that'll get you in the moment and not thinking like, oh my God, everyone's looking at me. It's more like, oh no, I'm looking at them.
We're looking at each other.
Yeah.
We're seeing, that's really good advice because I hate the common tropes of like, picture everyone naked. I'm like, well, now everyone's just naked and I'm nervous.
No, don't do that.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable for all of us. Like, I don't want to see my Uncle Joe naked. It's a fabulous man, but like
we don't need to do that.
That's not what we need. No, absolutely not. Yeah, I really like that because it's something real and tangible that people can hold on to. And when you envision the day, you're right. You feel like everyone turns around. They're going to be watching you as you come down the aisle. But like, this is interactive. You're a part of it. They all came to see you too.
Totally.
So like, what do you think they're thinking? Like, this bitch.
No.
She is such a bitch.
And I think the thing about comedy and the thing about like stage fright as a bride, it's like, it's your big moment. It's your one big moment. And I think
like everyone bought tickets to your show. They're there to see you.
But I think the more you take that pressure away, where you're like, I'm walking down the aisle. I'm walking to my future partner just like I would if I were walking home from work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think taking the pressure away of like, this is the moment.
Yes.
It's like you're going to have so many moments that are more important that you don't even realize. Anyway, I think just taking away that pressure is helpful. And as someone who loves attention, I still get nervous. And it's like, I personally want attention. I know there's so many people who are like, I actually don't want that.
Yes.
And I think like, this part may be out of your comfort zone. And that's why I think sometimes like doing a wedding that's like totally yours, like maybe you don't walk down the aisle.
Yeah.
Maybe you like, if that's not your style, like it's your performance.
Right.
And that's why I love when I see people like, if they're walking down the aisle and like they're dancing or like The Office, where it's just like, you know what? Like our style is different. And like, I love horses. I'm gonna ride a horse down the aisle. Like who cares? It's your day.
You don't have to walk down the aisle. You're so right. Like you can do it in any way you want. You're planning it. Like who says you have to do it the same way everyone else did?
Right. And the part of my show that I'm playing with is that people do say a lot of things. Oh, you know what you should do? That's the thing everyone says. You know what you should do? Don't you want to do this? You know what you should? And it's like, those thoughts go into your head, even when you're at other weddings and you hear people be like, I mean, I wouldn't do that, but like, whatever. I mean, you know what I would do? And it's like, you hear those things.
Yeah.
So you get this perception of what people think you should do. And I think if you like want to have a all-encompassing wedding that's fully yours, then you turn that off. And if you feel good roller skating down the aisle,
it sounds like a dream.
Do that, Oh my God, I should do that. I should do that at one of my weddings.
That would be so fabulous.
So funny.
Yes, that would be hysterical.
This is coming from a comedian who's like, oh, how can I make this the silliest I can make it?
Yeah.
And that's my style.
Yes.
You know, but if someone's like, I want it serious and I want it to be perfect and I want everyone to stand and I don't want anyone to take a picture and like you do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
But letting go of the control, I really like that aspect too, because as pristine as you might want your wedding to be, this like little picture perfect day, you have to know going into it that it won't be 1000% perfect. There's something that's going to throw you off a little bit. So plan for what you can plan for, and then the rest of it, like, let go and enjoy it. Like, be happy, be present.
And I think because you only get one, which obviously life happens, like sometimes maybe you'll have two or whatever.
Sure.
But I think like let's say like the first dance didn't go the way you wanted to.
Yes.
Like, do another one.
Do another one.
Do another first dance. I don't know. Like, it's like, I think there's so much pressure put on everybody at a wedding.
Yeah.
It's like, it's very stressful.
I hate it. I hate that. That's the thing that I hate most about weddings. And obviously I am obsessed with weddings. It's like what I've, delved my whole life into. But that really hurts my heart because it's painful for everyone to feel like they have to meet this standard.
Mm-hmm.
And no, like how many people now, I see so many couples now just don't do first dances because they're not dancers. And like, why would they do that?
Because their mom was like, well, don't you want a first dance? And
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
no, I don't. And the part of my show that I really am working on is like when the bride sets boundaries. Because that's something I struggle with.
Yes.
And like that times 1,000 is your wedding. And like setting a boundary and saying no is so hard for me and a woman and someone who's trying to put this like, I'm perfect and I'm here to like, I make everyone happy and have the best day ever. And if it's like, oh, someone wants to do this, just be like, actually, no.
Yeah.
No, we're not going to do that.
That's all. Put your foot down. I mean, the thing that kind of throws a wrench in that sometimes is like, is mom paying? And mom is like insisting we're doing crazy things. Or not crazy things, but things that she had always envisioned that you wanted. Like,
totally.
It's this delicate balance, but there can be a meeting of the minds. And maybe you do like a 30-second section of a dance like after your introduction or something. Like you don't have to have this big moment, or maybe you do it like during dinner. You don't have the announcement made. Or, you know, there's different ways that you can do things. It doesn't have to be cookie cutter.
Right. And people want to watch the performance of what you think a first dance should be.
Yes.
So if you think about it like a performance, you could just be like, all right, I'm going to put on my happy girl face and do it to please someone else, of course.
Sure.
But I do think there's certain things that I struggle with being like, even in my show, which is not real.
Yeah.
But I'm struggling with the, like I'll have, a friend be like, oh, can I do this crazy thing? And I have to be like, actually, no.
It's my show, bitch.
Because it is my show.
Yeah.
And I put a lot of work into it.
Totally.
And people like to see a woman in control and putting her foot down. People like to see that.
Yeah, it feels good.
It feels really good.
It's
scary though.
Unfortunately, it's scary. The sad thing is it's refreshing. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be.
But for me, it's very scary. For me to setting boundaries is so hard.
It's so hard.
Being goofy and silly, I love it. I can do it all day. I can perform in front of people all day. But
because it's telling people like there is a part of me that takes herself a little bit serious.
Totally.
And it's like, oh my God, I don't want people to think I'm like serious.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh my God. For me, that's my biggest fear. If someone thinks I'm being serious, then I've not done my job right. And then I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
But yeah. So then when I am serious, people are like, oh my God, who is this girl?
Scary.
Yeah. It's kind of scary.
Yeah. So when it comes to your show, I want to just go back to it because I love the concept so much. I want to come to the show, by the way.
You're like, totally invited. I'm crash my wedding.
I'm going to crash.
Yeah.
Can I like come and do this big crazy? I'm just kidding.
I mean, if you want to be a part of it, you let me know.
Oh my God. So I wanted to ask you about the inspiration for a little bit because it's based on certain rom-coms.
Totally.
Right?
I love a rom-com.
So my sister comes on the show about once a month, and we dissect a wedding movie. So are your shows more of an amalgamation of several movies, or do you kind of focus in on one and the tropes of those?
How I started the show was it was based off of a movie. So like each movie poster was based. So the first one was My Big Fat Spoof Wedding. The second one was Wedding Crashers. And then this one has been Crash My Wedding.
Yeah.
So now it's a little more all-encompassing.
Yeah.
But the like My Big Fat Greek Wedding, having someone be like, oh, I don't eat meat. And like, you don't even meat? Like people recognize that, but that's also based off of a real person.
Yes.
And a real obviously movie, but
well, that's why it's so funny, because everyone has that in their family. They all have the aunt who's like trying to force meat down a vegetarian's throat.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite wedding movie?
I do love Wedding Crashers.
Love Wedding Crashers. It's so, you can always watch it too.
It's so funny.
It's so funny.
I'm trying to think of like some of the best wedding moments. I love, if you've seen About Time.
I have seen About Time.
It's my favorite movie.
Oh my gosh,
and it's not the wedding scene isn't funny, but I'm like, that's the perfect wedding for me. She's in like a red dress.
Yes.
It rains. It's like, but you can just see that they're so happy.
Yeah.
And like the speeches, some of them are bad. And I'm just like, it's a more wholesome version of like the silliness that I'm going for. But that's one moment where I go, oh my God, I love that.
So you're a Rachel McAdams girly.
I want to be Rachel McAdams.
Oh my God, who among us is not?
Rachel McAdams is perfection.
Oh.
She can do no wrong. And I think she is all-encompassing in a way that's not unrealistic.
I agree. Yeah, she makes you feel like it's almost attainable, but it's like, I don't have that million-watt smile. She's
just so cute.
She's so cute. And she's such a good actress.
Yeah.
And everything she touches turns to gold.
What's your favorite?
My favorite wedding movie? Probably My Best Friend's Wedding is my favorite.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
It's problematic in all the right ways.
Right.
And
yeah, they are, some of them are pretty, in hindsight, I'm like, oh, that's why I am the way that I am.
Yeah. Most of them have shaped us in ways we don't even realize.
Totally.
A lot of them are dark. A lot of them, like your shows, are cautionary tales, you know? You would never in a million years want the things to happen at your wedding that happen in these movies, but they're so fun to watch.
Yeah.
I love them. Are there any, we talk about this when we dissect the movies, are there any tropes in wedding movies or just rom-coms in general that you think are like hysterical that you work into the show or things? Like what are your favorites?
I recently did one where my dream scenario for a wedding is for one of my exes to try to break up the wedding.
Obsessed.
It's the one who got away. He comes back and he's like, no, it's me. And it's like
The Graduate.
Fight for me. Like
Totally.
that's what I want. So at the last one, I think it was 2 weddings ago. It's so funny. I love being like, oh, which wedding was that?
Yeah.
But one of them, we came back and we were doing the vows, and one guy was like, wait, Tess, it's me. The guy who took you to. Yeah. I made a video of it, so if you want to look at it. But so I had like, the first time I did it was just one guy, and then there was a rap battle for my love, which was funny. And then the second time I did it, I had like 13 guys, one after the other, like come in and break up the wedding, and it got more and more random. And like he was like, "Oh, it's me, that guy from Burning Man. I forget your name, but you had such a vibe." Like it's all these people, and I think like in my dream wedding, obviously I wouldn't want that to happen, but like in my crazy producer like fantasy show where I'm like, what's the most epic thing that could happen is like 13 of my exes who are still absolutely in love with me.
Of course.
I would love that.
Obsessed.
So that was one that I was like, that's fun.
That's the perfect wedding, honestly.
It was so fun. And every time someone came in, people, like the audience groaned. They were like, oh my God, another.
They're all in love with me.
Like, I just want like so many men in love with me and being like, stop it.
Stop trying to get with me. I'm getting married.
Literally obsessed with me. But that was so fun. That was one of my favorites.
So you've thought about a little bit, like, do you ever want to get married? Do you ever think
that's such a good question. No one's asked so far. I want a partner for sure.
Yeah.
I do think like a partnership is very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very loyal.
Yeah.
I think in terms of a wedding, I think my idea of my actual wedding would be very different.
Yeah.
But in terms of marriage, I'm not as grounded in it as some of my friends are.
Okay.
So I think that's where like I think it makes me a little like uncomfortable. My feelings about it make me uncomfortable, and that's why I lean so into being like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah.
So I'm it makes me unsure,
For
which
sure.
is scary.
Yeah, well, it is scary. Yeah. I mean, it's a huge commitment. You've been going to a lot of weddings recently.
Yeah.
Last I talked to you, you were about to embark on a fabulous journey for your best friend's wedding where you were the maid of honor. Tell us about this.
Okay, so it was in Florence. And my best friend, who weirdly her name is Honor, and
Ooh,
so I was
like
maid of
that.
honor. It's a gorgeous name, and she was the perfect bride, like just stunning. She's so poised and gracious and kind, and like they were so in love. And I think it was the first time I like really went to a wedding where I knew, like usually it was like an uncle or whatever, you know, like someone who's a little distant.
Sure.
And I was so a part of their relationship because I was her best friend, and like we became like this like three best friends. And then she'd always have to introduce, she'd be like, this is my boyfriend and this is my best friend. Like it was, we were all got very close, which was great. So went to Florence, and they like arrived on a boat to the the party, and it was just, there was so much detail. And like I think she is the bride that like the pressure of it, like I knew there was a lot of pressure, but I could tell there were moments where she had bride on, and then there were moments where she was just like, I am stressed. Like I'll give the perfect example. We're at the welcome dinner, and I see her for a second, like, you look great. Oh my God, if you need anything, I'll be running around. So I'm meeting all these people, and she's talking, and I come over, and we're about to take a picture, and I'm like, how are your cheeks? And she goes, oh my God, they're so painful. Like literally it was just like, oh my God. And so I started massaging her. Like, your cheeks hurt from smiling, and it's just like, you have to be like this because you feel that, but it's like it won't leave your face.
Totally.
So that was a moment where I thought that was funny, where it's like, you kind of see the curtain drop of like, actually, my face is hurting. Yeah. I'm so happy my face hurts.
And that's okay. And that's so good to have your maid of honor, your best friend there to be like, oh my God, like drop the mask for a second. Not that it's a mask because you are happy. It's like, it's genuine, but it also is like, oh my God, it really depletes your cup to be on for so long.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's hours and hours. I mean, especially in Florence, I'm sure it was like a full wedding
weekend. It was so well planned and executed, and I mean, like the attention to detail. And I think like with my show, it's like I have an attention to detail that's like I truly was so inspired by her wedding, because I was like, I need to take this and make it like as like that was the standard of perfection that like I was going for. But obviously in my show, it never becomes that.
Right.
But yeah, and just seeing, there were moments where like something was happening and it wasn't going right, and she was just like, okay, yeah. And I was like, oh my God. Like truly just like the perfect bride in so many ways. And you just, honestly, you see, I feel like the groom does get a little like lost in the shuffle because it's so the bride.
Totally.
But it's like when the bride looks at the groom, it's like you still look at the bride, but you see what she's looking at, and you see her face, and you're like, oh, it's like that Rihanna song.
Everybody's watching her.
Yeah.
But she's looking at you.
Yeah. Like seeing a bride look at something that, you know, just makes her so genuine is like the word I would describe.
Oh my God, that's so special.
Yeah.
Oh I can even see it on your face. Like you really honor, congrats.
Because I feel like even with shows, like if you see a show and someone's like, after a play or a production, they go, oh, it was so fun. Yeah, the lighting was really great. You can tell it's like fake. And you know, if it was a wedding that you were like, yeah, it was great. The flowers, they were there.
Yeah.
You know,
you're like looking for something you're trying to remind yourself like, what was good about this wedding?
Yeah. So it's
but
like,
what really makes it is like the people, the dancing? Like, are you having a good time?
Totally.
And there's so many different factors that play into that, like a million different things, and they're different for every wedding. But like, are people having a good time?
That's the most stressful thing about hosting a show, and I'm sure a wedding is the same, where it's like, does everyone have a drink?
That's it.
Do they want to sit? Like, it's the people
But the more you
pleasing.
worry about it,
Yeah.
the less fun people are going to have.
Yeah.
Like, I would say probably you for your show and, you know, mirroring a bride, like you guys enjoying yourselves, that's what's going to make people have fun. Like, you're setting the tone
Totally.
with your attitude about the whole thing. So as the maid of honor, what were your responsibilities like? Were you like super hands-on with the planning or?
Not at all.
Okay.
Which I was like, do you need help planning?
Yeah.
It was in Florence, so they went and planned. They had a wedding planner.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of that. I helped, I would say, like, not as much as I wanted to.
Yeah.
But I think that was probably the best because she was so clear about what she wanted and was like, oh, I'm just going to be this. Yeah, so I was involved very little.
Okay.
Which I think was more of a testament than to me.
Yeah. Well, she knew what she wanted.
She knew what she wanted, and she just like, that was the way it was.
What to you is the best part about being maid of honor, worst part about being maid of honor?
Oh, I love a task. I love a task. I had so many tasks. My vision went from like, oh, it's a wedding to like, you were the most important person. Like, I had Tide to go. I had the paper things.
Yes,
like
the
I
tissues.
loved being in service and to someone I love, obviously, and with a clear objective.
Yes.
The objective was like, you will be perfect. And that I loved having the task of doing that. And I think sometimes I had to be like, that's not my task.
Right.
And I think some other people have to be like, that's not my task. But people love a task.
Yeah, they do. They want to feel like they're needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that was my favorite part.
Love it.
Also, I gave a speech. I loved.
Tell me about the speech. So was the pressure on? Because you're a comedian.
Yes.
Like, people were probably like, oh, this is going to be good.
Well, of course it was. Because what else am I going to do?
Of course.
So this is like a testament kind of to who I am as a person. Her husband and his father love magic, and I host a magic show. So I did a little magic. No, it was like the dumbest thing. So I like went up and was like, they told me not to do any magic tricks at their wedding, and I was like, why not? And I had these streamers, and they like went up in the air, and it was so ridiculous. And then I did like a joke that was, the premise was basically like, people think that because I'm a comedian, the speech is going to be so funny, but I really just want to speak from the heart. And it's that Honor bullied me. And she did. She really bullied, like, that's how we like met. And she bullied me. And then I went into this like satirical lens of like, she's doing all these like really nice things for me as like a friend. She's like, she'd come to all my shows. She would include me in all these things. She became the favorite daughter of my family. Like, my family loved her so much because she was there all the time because they loved her. And they were like, oh my God, Honor, I'm quoting them, Honor, our favorite daughter. They have 2 daughters. So I did this whole thing about like, they bullied me, and then she met Cedric, and I thought things would change, and then he bullied me too. Like, it just doubled down on it, and it was really funny.
Oh my God, that's cute.
It was really cute. But it was very like, because of my tone and like the fact that I'm such a goofball that people believed it, I wouldn't be like, because the first version I wrote was very funny, but it was like very much like inside jokes and like catered to them.
Yes.
And I had to remind myself that like, you know, her dad's friends are going to be there and they don't know like our, you know, rapport. So I had to keep that in mind.
Tess, that's such a good point that so many people overlook. I hear a billion maid of honor, best man speeches that are just riddled with inside jokes and things that like don't make sense. And if you're not funny, like, don't try to be funny. You know what I mean? Like, you can't relate to that because you're a comedian, but I'm sure you've heard a lot of speeches that it's like, you're missing the mark. Like,
Yeah.
don't be who you're not.
Right.
Do you have advice for anyone, whether they're funny or not, for writing a speech? Best man or maid of honor?
I would say you have a tight 5 minutes maximum.
Thank you. Thank you, Tess.
This
Louder.
This is not your Netflix special. This is not the thing I play with in my show is that it's a roast, which like is so not the context. Like it can be funny, but like it's not a roast.
It's not the time or place.
It's not. I think like if you're going to yeah. Oh, also it's no sexual innuendos. Nothing about like even leading toward anything sexual. I would say no.
I agree.
I think because it may not make you uncomfortable or like all of your 12 friends who are there uncomfortable.
Sure.
But you got to think about grandma and grandpa.
Yes.
The other thing about this wedding is that the groom, some of his family didn't speak English. They only spoke German. So I think they liked my trick. I think that was it. They didn't hear any of it. But for me, I had to think about my dress and my sweat stains. I had to think about that.
Had to.
And I also had to think about sometimes if I'm holding a paper, I shake. So I had to think about that. So I like folded the paper up so that I wouldn't have to turn a page.
Yes.
So I had like small font. And I was pretty much memorized, but I would look for like a word. So if you have your speech kind of like memorized and like down pat, find a note card and just put the word reminders. Like at one point I talked about the musical that we both did. So I just wrote musical, So it's like those words, you'll remember where you were.
It'll
but just,
trigger you.
If you're worried about like memorizing it, you don't have to and you can just look at it.
Yeah. Because you don't want to feel like you're so like when I'm at honor, we were, there's like, you could tell when people aren't enjoying it. I will say there are some people who like have it out,
have it out if that's
know
what you
thyself.
Mean. Yeah,
that's
totally.
important.
I also think sometimes people get into the reading out loud voice where they're like, when I met Sarah and Jason, it's like this melodic voice and it puts people to sleep. Like, I think this is me being like how to perform, but like if you're gonna read it, just like try to make it not sound like you're reading it.
Yeah. And that comes with practice.
Totally.
Like, it's okay to read it, but make sure you know it enough so that you can say it while you're reading it.
Yeah. And I think also a lot of times, if you're not funny, don't try to be funny. It's similar to the bride. Like, whatever your way of expressing love is, then you should do that.
Yeah.
Like a song. Everyone loves a song.
And if all else fails, like, give a toast. It can be a 10-second toast. Like, we are so happy for them. We all know how much they mean to us and wish them a beautiful marriage. Like, if you're not a talker, don't talk.
Also, if you're nervous and you say, I'm a little nervous, people will love you. If you're genuinely nervous, you're like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. If you're getting emotional and you just say, sorry, I'm getting a little emotional. People want to know because they see it. And when you acknowledge it, it gives them the permission to go, oh, well, at least they know.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Or if you're like, you're something's happening, you're like, oh God, I'm okay. I'm sweating. People see that you're human and they're like, oh, we love you because you're not hiding anything from us.
Absolutely.
And
yes.
Yeah.
So transparency.
If anything is happening, a glass drops, someone dropped their glass. If you just acknowledge what's happening in the room, people will respond to that in a positive way.
Yeah.
Don't roast the venue. Don't make fun of the venue. It's the thing with comedy too. Like, we're in this space. Like, if you're like, oh wow, like if it's like raining or you're like, oh wow, we got some great weather, like sure, but that's not in control. But if you're like, oh, I'm so glad we met in this what looks like a dungeon. Like people do that in comedy all the time. And I'm just like, who cares?
Right.
Like, we're here. You want to get invited back or whatever.
Totally.
But,
yeah. People, they lean on these things. They're like, okay, what is everyone going to think is like really funny or really emotional? But it's like, it sounds so cliche and stupid, but really what is it that you love about the couple? Because this is about them, not you. Yep. And that's a hard thing too for people to take themselves out of it, because it's like, oh, I've been bestowed this honor. Like, this is going to be my moment to shine. People are going to fall in love with me. Right. It's like, if you're doing a good job, people won't even think about you. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. They're just going to be enjoying like hearing the things. And then later they're going to be like, wow, that person really killed it.
Yeah. Well, they killed it because you talked about the people who it's about.
Yes. And who everyone is there for. Like, unfortunately, Sally, you know, not everyone's there for you.
Exactly. Also, as a wedding goer, sometimes you know one side of the wedding. So like I went to a wedding and really only knew the groom. I didn't know. I had honestly went to this wedding and I hadn't even met the bride.
Wow. Okay.
So when people were giving speeches and I was getting the father of the bride gave a speech, her sister gave a speech, I got to know the bride through those speeches. So that's the other job for you, is to be like, I know this person so well and I'm going to paint their picture for you, for the people who maybe met her today.
Totally.
And are like, oh, what is she like? I don't know. The flowers don't tell me much about her personality, but the bridesmaid saying that she used to do musical theater with her best friend and did fake British accents. It's like, oh, okay, she's a goofy girl.
She's silly. Yeah. It's delicate and it's hard, but that's why start early, practice often.
Yes.
You know?
And have your sister listen to the speech. She was like, my sister was like, I need to hear your speech.
Practice it on people. Yes. Did your sister go to the wedding?
She did not. Okay. But two of my best college friends did, and they also helped me with the speech. I just kind of ran the premises by them. Yeah. And they were like, oh, that's cute. I just needed people to know, like I was like, I also pitched a couple jokes to them, and I was like, this was too mean. And they were like, and I was like, okay, it's out.
It's teetering the line. Yeah. If you have to ask, the answer's no. Yeah. Like my husband did a best man speech last year and he did a great job. He ended up doing a great job, but he wanted to put this joke in about his best friend shitting his pants. And I was like, it's just not, it's like a black tie event. Her parents are paying for the wedding. Right. I don't think they need to know that their son-in-law shit his pants. Right. It's something to think about, you know?
I think that's a good point. And I think, you want to, that's hard though, because I'm like, that's probably a funny story.
It's a great story. Maybe one for the rehearsal dinner.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I didn't realize, because I didn't know when I was speaking. I didn't know if I was the rehearsal dinner or the main event. And I also was like, I don't care. Yeah. Which was, I think there were I've seen some other weddings where like bridesmaids or other people really, they care a lot about like, no, well, I want to go last at the speaking, or like sisters being like, well, I'm the maid of honor and she's just, you know, like right. That type of stuff. Like that was not present at this wedding, or I didn't feel that effect. But anyway, it's, I think that type of stuff can also get in the way. So
yes.
Or like, oh, that we're sharing a speech. Oh, shared speeches. Those are tricky. I think, I've seen those go really well or really bad.
I've seen some doozies. Unfortunately, most
don't.
I find are doozies.
I think if you're going line by line, it just doesn't really work. I feel like you have to do like, okay, you'll say your thing and then I'll say my thing and then we do something at the end.
Right.
That's what I would suggest.
Yes. Planning a wedding can get expensive quickly, which means there's not always a lot left in the budget to put toward your honeymoon. That's where a honeymoon fund with Honey Fund can help. As the most trusted honeymoon and cash registry, Honey Fund makes it easy for your friends and family to contribute to all parts of your dream getaway, from airfare to hotels to attractions or even candlelit dinners. It's a classy way to ask for cash so you can start your marriage with some extra funds for your amazing new adventure. Start your registry at honeyfund.com and make your honeymoon happen. Click the link in the episode description to get started. Before we end the episode, we do two things every show. The first is a segment called Premarital Counseling. So our listeners will write in their questions, queries, concerns that they have, and we try to give them some advice. So I'm going to read this one to you today. We always change names. So let's call her Sally Joe. I'm sure I use that a lot, but
Sally Joe.
Sally Joe.
She sounds like a tomboy.
Yeah, she's
cool.
gonna ride bareback horse.
Yeah,
like, she's
a cool girl.
Yeah, for sure. No, but not a pick me.
No.
Yeah. Hi, Sally Joe. Okay. Sally Joe says, hi, February 2025, bride here and big fan of the prenup. Thanks, Sally Joe. I'm writing in because I need someone to talk me off the ledge, but the people who would usually do that are the ones pushing me. I have been a diligent, dutiful bridesmaid in 7 weddings over the past 3.5 years. I never complained, even when money was tight. I was always supportive. I did everything I could do to make my friend's experience as a bride as enjoyable as possible because I did not want to be a source of stress. Sadly, this notion is not being reciprocated by my own friends and bridesmaids. I didn't select a maid of honor, not for a particular reason other than I feel equally close to all 8 bridesmaids. But none of my friends will step up to the plate for any bridal shower / bachelorette party planning. I'm so hurt, and I am not only making plans myself, but getting so much pushback on bachelorette party destinations and lots of questions, concerns about how much money each person will have to put up for my bridal shower. I feel so uncomfortable asking for anything at all, and I feel I shouldn't be doing this. Please help, not sure where to go from here.
Sally Joe.
Oh, Sally Joe.
Sally Joe, I feel you. I feel you so much. Not in a wedding way, but in a birthday way where you're like, I planned a surprise party for you and you texted me. What?
It's different.
Like I think it's also like a people pleasing thing where it's like you want to please someone else, but then like, and then you set an expectation and then it's like, you expect like a little bit.
Yeah, and
you don't get it, and
the
then
unfortunate
you're
part. It's like it's our own expectations that kind of do this.
Yeah, it is, and it's like, yeah, that's so true.
Not that it's your fault. Like you're a good friend, and you deserve people to rally behind you. I will say the interesting part is that she doesn't have a maid of honor.
Okay, yeah,
and I think that this might be able to be rectified by something you said earlier. Kind of piqued my mind on this, but people want to feel needed.
Yes.
So if you select one of these bitches to be your maid of honor, and she feels like, oh, I'm head honcho now, like it really might give her the zhuzh, to take initiative.
Right.
So that's an option.
What you could do is be like, don't tell anybody, but you're my maid of honor.
Yes.
And do it to all 8 of them.
Yes.
Sally Joe, I am a manipulative crazy girl.
She did not play. She did not come to play.
Just take that, because if they find out, it might go back at you. But in the rom-com version, that's what would happen. And you would have 8 epic bachelorette parties. And then at the end, they'd be like, wait a minute, da-da-da. And you'd be like, oh no, I'm so sorry.
There's a misunderstanding.
I love you all so much. And then there'd be like an ending that would be funny and great.
And everyone would be like dancing to Mamma Mia.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think if there's also the thing of being like, I don't want anything, but then, and then people literally go, oh, okay, great. But me as a people pleaser, I'm like, I don't believe that for a second, because I do the same thing where I go, oh, I don't want anything. And then I'm like, but you didn't get me anything?
Oh, Tess, story of my life.
It's horrible.
So I turned 31 in April, and I am still torturing my husband about how he didn't do anything for my 30th when I told him I don't want anything for my 30th. Hello, that means
you want something.
A surprise.
Hello, like, yes, exactly. I literally say this, and it's annoying because I'm like, oh yeah, we're full of contradictions where it's like, oh, like seriously, I don't want it, but you do.
Yes.
And you don't want to be too much to ask. It's about being a burden and all this stuff. And
of course.
That's what we work on in therapy and with our friends and whatever. But if she was like, I want a bachelorette and I went to all of yours and I spent this much money on yours and you're not going to come to mine, that bachelorette is not going to be fun, because then it feels like a guilt trip.
Yes.
And that's not fun. But that sucks, because it sucks to feel like not like given something in return, or not appreciated and not celebrated the way that you celebrated someone like that.
Yeah.
Really sucks. And I think that is something that I wouldn't know how to approach it as like a problem solving thing, but like noticing those emotions and being like, wait, I actually feel really sad about this and disappointed and hurt. And just saying like, by them not doing this, like that actually really hurts. And leaving it up to them to be like, okay, yeah, she's hurt. Just acknowledging the emotion and being like, it kind of hurts that none of you want to like plan this with me or like.
Totally.
I don't know. That's hard. 8 people, that's also a lot of emotion.
It's a lot of emotion. It's a lot of girlies.
And logistics and planning. And like you don't want to have to do that.
And look, everyone, we all get it. Like everyone gets busy with their lives, their work, their family, whatever. But I love that. Just saying like, it really hurts. You don't want to do this. And then leave it there. Like don't go in on people. No one wants to read a 7-page text.
No.
But saying that, if one of my friends said like, it really hurts that you don't want to do this, I'd be like, oh my God, I'm going to kill myself.
I would give them my kidney. I would be like, you can take my heart and soul in exchange for your approval.
And if these girls are not feeling like that's the response they have after you've said that, then okay, go ahead with your wedding. And then, you know what, maybe we reevaluate things afterward. Maybe the friendships aren't as close as we
That's hard. That's a hard thing to also realize, especially the people who've been in your life for so long.
Yeah.
Like a sister or even like your best friend of being like, oh, wait, we've changed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean you have to like cut them out of your life, obviously. But like there's definitely times where I think even like new friends where you're like, you can be my maid of honor. And then it's like, actually, you're taking away from this.
Totally.
But it's hard to be like, revoke that. That's really tricky. Yeah, I don't know. Also, if you think about it, if you're like, also the money thing, like that's where I get petty, where it's like, are you kidding me?
Like all that I did for
and
you.
Especially as like a single girl now, I'm like, and that's I think where my frustration comes is where I'm like, okay, I've been like giving myself to all these, all of my friends getting married. But like, if I don't get married, I'm not going to get that in return.
Totally.
And I'll be forgotten. And that's my biggest fear is being forgotten.
It's like when Carrie Bradshaw registers for the Manolo Blahniks. Do you remember this episode of Sex and the City?
I don't, but I just recently rewatched it. So I should know that.
It's like so like all of her friends, she gave bridal shower gifts to, and she didn't get married. But like, why not? She wanted to register for something and it was her non-wedding. She registered for a non-wedding. It's like, your friends should recognize those things too, whether you're getting married or not. Like, friendship is a two-way street.
Yeah. And demanding the celebration, you don't want to demand it, but if it's like, you know, like a bachelorette is like a nice to have, but like, so are all of theirs. So it's like, oh, yeah. Sally Jo, that's tricky.
Sally Jo, we are with you. I mean, we gave a couple bits of advice. Write back in and let us know. Like, tell them that you're hurt and let us know how you feel, and we'll follow up with this hopefully.
And maybe give them a task. There are 8 of them.
Yes,
girl, delegate this one. Come on, like, be like, hey, I'm feeling so overwhelmed. Is there a way you could talk to everyone and get a sense of a venue or like a place where they want to go or whatever.
Yes.
And being like, hey, I think I really want a ton of penis stuff.
Yes.
Can you be the one in charge of that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's a way to do it. And I think that they'll come around. Like, I really do. Once you let them know what you're feeling, that you're hurt, that they need to, you know,
and don't put the blame on them. Don't be like, you made me hurt. Be like, I'm feeling really overwhelmed and hurt.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I had this like idea of what my bachelorette was going to be, and I'm hoping to please everyone, but at the end of the day, I'm not really feeling pleased. Is there a way we can make everyone happy?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I like that. The word we. My husband always says this. He's like, when you're trying to get someone to do something for you, you have to say we.
Yeah.
So it's not you and me. It's not us versus each other. It's how are we going to get this done? Ooh. When in reality, it's like you're going to be the one to get it done, but we're going to do it.
Yeah.
So try that.
That's a good. Remember that.
All right. And last thing I have for you before I let you go today, this is so fun. We do an after party every episode, and they're just little fun wedding questions. So first one is, what is your top honeymoon recommendation for anyone getting married?
Oh my God, I'm so poorly traveled. I don't know. That makes me so stressed because.
Or even like a dream one.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good question. I would say Greece because Mamma Mia, and that would be like the vision
Fabulous.
and just like staying in one place. I wouldn't want to like travel a bunch of places.
Yeah, it's stressful.
Yeah, there's a difference between traveling and a vacation, and I feel like a honeymoon is a vacation.
Totally.
Especially after all that you've planned for the wedding.
You just want to
just be
veg a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%.
Greece.
Okay, Greece, fabulous. Okay, what about your dream wedding cake flavor?
I love chocolate, and if it was like my real wedding, I would get the Costco chocolate cake. It's about 7 layers, and it's like this much frosting.
Oh,
It's like 2 inches of frosting for every like quarter of an inch of cake, and I
that's
love
sexy.
frosting,
Mhm.
and it's so good. I don't think it would like please other people, but that's
It's not
not
their
really
wedding.
the point of that. But chocolate cake. But then I'd also have like a little like stations. I think what I would do, because I love activities, there would be like an ice cream station or like
Yep.
activities where you can make your own dessert kind of thing.
Sexy.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay, what song is going to get you on the dance floor at a wedding?
Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody got me good. I had the time of my life. It was like the second to last song at my best friend's wedding, and I was like, my feet were killing me, and I
Yeah.
was sitting down, and like I was just like done for the night. And that song came on, and I like rushed to the dance floor, and we tried to do the lift,
So good.
which was like didn't work.
Of
But then we
course.
were just like so into it. That's my favorite video. My favorite thing that happened at her wedding was just like that dancing moment, because it was like the dance floor was pretty much empty. No one was there, and it was just like us being silly and our best friend self. So
It's
that would
such a
get me.
great song, and it really is. No one has ever said that one, and it is such a feel good. Like you realize you just need to bop around to it. I've had a couples do it as their first dance, and I had one tragedy.
Oh no.
Well, tragedy is a dramatization, but
Right.
there was a fall in the lift.
Oh
I know.
my God, I need to have that at my fake wedding though.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
So
To go
funny.
up and then just like poof.
Yeah, but I will say you would have been so proud of them. They like were so graceful about it and laughed it off and like finished it out just you know twirling, and I was so happy
Props
for them.
for going for it.
Going for it.
Because
Why
you gotta
not?
go, if you're like, this is what I want, it doesn't work out, you go, I did it.
Screw it. Yeah, we
That's
tried.
so crazy. Yeah, I lifted her maybe 2 inches off of the ground.
That's more than a lot of people could do.
But what I didn't realize, obviously, like I wasn't gonna lift her over her head, but she had her like cute little like after dress on.
Yeah.
And in the video, thank God, the angles were like perfect, where it was like the dress didn't like go up or anything. Like, so I would say think about that. It's like, are you gonna be like showing anyone any bits and pieces?
Hoo-has.
Yeah, we don't need any hoo-has on the dance floor, but a lift. I love a lift.
Love a lift. If you can pull it off.
I also like, I mean, ideally you're like at the top, but like
Sure.
I loved being the one who's like, you go, I'm gonna lift you up. Like obviously it was not gonna happen.
You're the hoister.
But I think people were watching that and they were like, I think she can do it. Because in my head, I was like, I think I can lift her. And I really tried. I didn't.
She believed she could, so she almost did.
All I wanted was for her to soar, and it didn't happen. But like, I think we felt it so much in our soul that we did.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's still fun. Who cares?
Yeah.
Like, just try it. Why not? Okay, Tess, last question I have for you today is, what is one practical piece of advice that you could give to anyone planning a wedding?
Planning a wedding. Practical. The dress that I have for the show has pockets.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a life changer for me as a producer and a performer. However, as a bride, you should not be holding anything.
That's true. That's very true.
You should have, men have pockets. Put your shit in their pocket.
Oh,
As a maid of honor, I had my clutch filled with things. As the bride, you shouldn't carry a thing. Me as a bride and producer, I needed 1,000 things in my pocket.
yes.
You don't need to hold anything.
If you have a security item, maybe it's good for that. But I 1,000% agree with you. Hand off the things.
Have little snacks too.
Oh, snacks.
You need those snacks. I mean, yeah. I need it. Yeah. And if you're nervous, looking at people helps. And also like breathing, having a dress that you can breathe in. And when I say like breathe, I mean like take a deep breath and you're not worried about you're sucking in and flexing and that. Like, I think for me, my mental thing was like, I just need to be able to breathe.
Yeah.
And the dress that I have is like cut so that if I'm bloated, I can still breathe.
Yes.
So I would say that.
I love it. That's really, really great advice. Tess, thank you for doing this
was
with
so
me.
fun.
This was so fun. Where can everyone find you and your show and all the things?
Okay, so you can find me on Instagram at Tess Treg, TikTok at Tess Tregellas. I am in New York and I have shows. I host this magic show that obviously you should come to every other Sunday in Brooklyn. But my next wedding, Crash My Wedding, is June 29th. It's a Saturday at 6:30. You come in, you get a role, like, so you're assigned a role at the wedding. So you could be the crasher, you could be the priest, you don't know who you're going to be, but it's going to be so much fun. And I seriously cannot wait. So everyone is invited to Crash My Wedding.
Tess, we are so excited for you. Thank you so, so much.
Yay, it was so fun.
Oh. This episode is brought to you by Honey Fund. Join more than 1 million couples on Honey Fund and start your fee-free registry at honeyfund.com today. Thanks for tuning into the Prenup. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform or on the Love Stories TV YouTube channel. Follow at _pre_nup and at Love Stories TV on Instagram for more. Have feedback or suggestions for the next episode? Feel free to reach out to us at podcasts@lovestoriestv.com.